All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great Lakes Permaculture Design Collaborative podcast.
I'm Milton Dixon, and I'm here with
William Faith.
And I'm Rhonda Baird.
And we've been getting together trying to push the edges of what we can do with computers and media and working together.
To innovate permaculture practices in design and education.
So, welcome. GLPDC.info.
So, welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Oh, Rhonda just froze out. But here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are, the GLPDC podcast. Yet again, this is actually episode number 10. There's a little confusion in the last episode. This is now number 10. We thought we were on, 6.
Who knows?
We weren't sure where we were. But that's how it goes sometimes. I'm Milton Dixon, and I'm here with Rhonda Baird. And we have a special guest today, Lori Upchurch. She's got a little label thing.
Yeah.
And so we're here to talk about the meetup, the meetups. Lori. Well, so maybe a little background on you, Lori. Do you want to just give us a quick why am I even talking to you? Where'd you come from?
I came from Rhonda's class.
Yeah.
So I got my PDC in November.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking about this last night. I feel like a lot of things have happened in the last year. One of them was that I got my PDC, and then after that was over with, I really missed just the opportunity to talk to people in depth about permaculture. And I've been really interested in social permaculture. So I got together with one of our classmates, a woman named Anai, and we decided to organize a monthly Permaculture Salon, which is just a discussion group. And it was just a way for us kind of to meet people that we didn't know yet and find out a little bit about the landscape of the permaculture community in Chicago, which neither one of us were very connected to. And it's been pretty great. I have to say I haven't been very involved with the meetup, although I think I've been made an admin on there, and I have a few things. I have tried to put a few things on there, but I'm not sure how to bring everybody that's on that group into what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And not even that's an appropriate thing, because the Permaculture Salon is generally about 10 to 20 people each month. And it's been a really great group and a different group. Not every month. We have some people who have been there every time, but we get new people at every one. And it's been really a great experience. We're hosting it in a classroom at the Permaculture Chicago Teaching Institute with a woman named Anna Maria Leone. It's her home, and she has set up a workspace and a gathering space in her basement of her house in North Lawndale. So it's been kind of just serendipitous the way things are rolling, and I'm loving the people that I'm meeting and the things that people are saying and the work that's coming out of it, the connections that are being made. And I would really love to figure out how to get more people kind of off the computer and into physical space with other people so that we can bring permaculture forward in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
That was some of the juice that we were talking about on the phone. I was like, whoa, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Milton, you've got some experience in meetup and bringing people together, and I have some experience. So maybe we could both talk a little bit about what we've done, and then we could kind of talk about what's emerging in Chicago, and what we'd like to just see in communities.
Yeah. Well, I took over that Chicagoland Permaculture Meetup from a gentleman who had it for a little while, who took it over from another gentleman named Rael, who is the whole reason that I'm into permaculture in the first place. And that he passed away. He was a little bit of a, not a hermit, but just kind of an old guy that kind of didn't have a whole lot of family, and then suddenly he's gone. and so the meetup kind of got passed on to him, to I think the next guy, and then he tried it for a little while, and didn't feel like it was doing what he wanted it to do, which I think is kind of the thing that we're grappling with a little bit. And then I took it over, and I didn't like I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I guess I still don't, but what I kind of ended up with a bit of a pattern when I did it, and that was that we would meet around food. We'd have like a little, either a potluck or meet at I actually don't think we got a potluck together, but we'd meet at like a coffee shop, or we'd meet at a restaurant, or wherever. And then from that, we'd try to create like an activity. So all the people that showed up kind of help pick, hey, at my house, I need this done, and oh yeah, that's great, and then everyone there has buy-in, and so hopefully all those people that went to the past meetup, the meetup where we're deciding what to do, would show up at the next meetup, and do something real world on the ground. And we had I think a few successful ones. We did like a surveying one. We did a rocket stove one, and then and a few like I think I don't know what it was. I mean, that was where I met William, who's the kind of the third member of this trio, and then I kind of moved away, and I moved to Ann Arbor, and I felt the need to keep up the meetup in Chicago as just kind of like for William, for whoever else is around and doing it. I felt like I could be a good steward of that resource. But when you do that, then you get 2 extra meetups for the same price. So I was like, well, I'll start one where I live now. It continues to grow. It's not huge by the Chicago standard, but I mean, I've got 502 members. So considering the size, like I think it's around 1,000 in Chicago. Maybe it's maybe a little more, but considering the size of Ann Arbor, the scale, that's actually a lot of people in this area. So, and then the other thing is that I've had a couple kids in the meantime, and my activities in at least my meetup have generally been lower, a couple things here or there a year, trying to keep something there so that it's alive, but I really haven't been putting a whole bunch of energy into it, and I'd really like to start doing a little more. I mean, just have. And maybe I can follow a similar pattern. I really like the sound of your salons. I don't know a whole lot about them, but you're getting 10 to 20 people is not a small meetup. That was 20 was probably the biggest we ever had in Chicago when I was there. So that's my story.
Yeah. So after I took my permaculture design course in 2005. Within a couple of months, we started the Bloomington Permaculture Guild. Actually, it took maybe a few months more than that, but I also had a small child at the time. I had a 5-year-old. But so we started the Bloomington Permaculture Guild, and this was before Meetup existed as an online platform for getting people together. So we did kind of a similar pattern where we created a listserv that people could join. I think at the most, there are about 200 people on that listserv. And we did monthly potlucks where there was an opportunity to do an installation in someone's site. So the first meeting was at our house, and we created a hugelkultur, which is the hugelkultur we created with mulberry, freshly cut mulberry, which is where I learned never to do that again. You know, so yeah, so that, you know, there's like these cool stories, because that was probably 13 or 14 years ago, right? So, you know, it's kind of funny. And then, you know, we dug a pond, hand dug a pond at someone's house, like a small pond, cleared, you know, just whatever people needed. We did that probably for 3 or 4 years, pretty strong, except we fell into the pattern of always ending up at the same people's houses because other people didn't have a project ready. So I'd say, you know, that's probably a pretty common pattern. And, you know, not necessarily a helpful one. Then Transition US came along. The community I live in had a transition town. We had all the people in the Permaculture Guild were putting lots of energy into that process, and that took a few years. And then after that kind of died down and didn't seem to quite work for the community, the listserv really became the key point for permaculture in the community. And it was like exchange of information, exchange of resources, a place to borrow tools. You know, hey, we're going to do a bulk order on seed, or we're going to do a bulk order on amendments. You know, that kind of thing really was the place for information share. And meanwhile, every year, more and more people are becoming educated in permaculture throughout the community. And other projects, like one of the food banks in the area, Mother Hubbard's Cupboard, has a gardening program, and they're promoting permaculture and seed saving and perennial cultures, and they have a food forest installation. The Bloomington Community Orchard has people who are doing, you know, model food forest in community run commons. And then what's come about in the last couple of years is something called the Neighborhood Planting Project, where people are donating their time, gathering donations, and doing a project where every year we plant out hundreds of perennial, like low maintenance, perennial food plants, primarily fruit trees and herbs, and small.
And small. Say it again.
Small fruits like cane fruits, so that the community has a little bit more food security. So then now, along with that, they're doing educational programs. And these are all people who've taken, like, they're design students of mine or something like that. And so even though the meetup or the potluck, the guild isn't necessarily the hub for these things, the permaculture community, the network is still there. Even just yesterday, the people involved with the Neighborhood Planting Project said, hey, we've been having a book club on Sundays. We would invite anybody who wants to join us to come in and do that. So it's sort of slow, easy community building process, really laid back and open to people. And yeah, so I guess that's what I would say is, like, I've done the organizing work at the local level, and it's also really nice to see other people doing these projects and keeping it loose and open and participatory now.
Well, and something that was going on here in Ann Arbor and neighboring Ypsilanti, there was actually before I came some work around the transition towns, and I actually had some involvement in Rogers Park transition group. That came and went. There's something about the nature of the stuff. It's always the same people and that kind of thing. And the same thing then with there was a group Ampy, which is now basically just a Facebook page. There was a guy that I work with a lot around here, Jesse Tack, for a time was really into organizing and doing events. But it always fell on his shoulders, and he really tried to spin up something else. And it didn't happen. And it's,
yeah.
it seems like that a lot of times it falls on just one person.
Yeah, true for any kind of community organization.
Yeah.
You're always going to have the people who are like, I have this idea, and have the ability to, like, pull people together and figure it out, and everybody, kind of works together. But when things fall apart for that one person who's like kind of carrying the load, things tend to sort of slow down and possibly stop. So I also think that when groups turn into just a Facebook group, have gone from a face-to-face group, and then they evolved into, or I'm sorry, they started as an in-person group and evolved into a Facebook group. It's hard to come back, I think, from that.
Yeah.
And but I also do feel like right now there's kind of a backlash against online organizing, and people are really looking for ways to connect with actual people and make actual things happen, as opposed to endlessly talking about them and sharing funny memes and or enraging memes or whatever it is. So I like what you said, Rhonda, about activities being slow and easy and laid back. I think that's a really good design for a community activity. It's just something that isn't threatening to people. It's potluck. We're getting together. We're going to talk about plants, or something easy, or we're going to read a book together, or just we're going to go to the beach and hang out, or just things that aren't a lot of commitment for people.
And easy on the organizers too. I think that is that's an important thing, that it is super possible to burn out and to feel like you're trying to spin up something and never gets going fast enough to take on its own life. And that seems to be an important piece.
It is. I wanted to say also, like, when you're planning these activities and your groups are getting going, I think it's good to sort of start with the idea that you don't always have to be there. It's like an open source meeting that anybody can kind of take on, as long as like the basic structure is in place. So I feel a little bit overwhelmed by the 1,000 people on the Chicago Permaculture Meetup group, because I don't know how to, I think an urban setting is a little different than a smaller area. We have a lot of issues about, justice and food sovereignty and equity and privilege that all have to kind of be addressed. There's a lot of trauma that people are coming to places with, and all of that gets rolled into whatever you're organizing. So I don't know, it's challenging. I feel like I'm just learning as I go.
That's it. That's why I wanted to, talk with you about this kind of in an open way. Because I thought at the very least, you and I and Rhonda can benefit from this conversation, but also, maybe someone else is hearing this and maybe they'll get the bug to do something. I mean, I think there's a thing about also, the oh gosh, words are failing me now. The ability to do it. It's like somebody. A lot of people are almost just waiting for permission to do it, and you just got to say, well, I'm just going to do this, and not know sometimes, right? Like I don't know all the answers, which is fine.
Well, you're accept feedback. Like,
right.
Hey, like we've had people step forward and say, I'm going to do this, and then it's like, based on some experience, that might not be the best thing, but take the feedback and then, use it to make it a better thing for you.
Right.
So, so a couple of things I would say is, do what you're really excited about, like what nourishes you always. I think all three of us would agree on that one.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's coming to mind is this idea of really cultivating a leaderful culture. And there's a lot that could be a whole other podcast on cultivating leaderful cultures within our, our permaculture groups, because
what does leaderful mean?
Right? What does that mean?
Leaders.
Yeah. How do we share power? Like, how do we have someone that's in a leadership position that the group is actually supporting and nourishing, and then that they're in it for a period of time, and then they step back, and people, maybe a person or two, are poised to be able to take that role on, for that duration, and it just rotates so that everybody gets more experience. I really like that open source, everybody knows kind of, and that's really a common culture, right? When that group creates a common culture, they all know that they can take, this is what we do, and this is how we take care of each other. We create those containers that are really holding people well. And, obviously I'm juiced up about this, but that's what we're after, right? And
that's what led me to permaculture. Is somebody told me recently that I have a savior complex, which is it's true. I have 3 kids. Of course I'm a savior complex person, but I really was feeling down after the 2016 election and feeling like, sort of hopeless, and thought, what can I do? What am I good at? What am I interested in? And those things that give you nourishment in your life are really the things that can help when you're trying to save the world. If everybody's like doing the things that give them life, it kind of helps attract people in. But then you also run into the problem of like we were saying earlier, people take on leadership roles and then get burned out, and they feel like, oh, now I have to do this every month, and I have to, so like working every meeting to establish that container, I think, is important. Like spending a little bit of time at the beginning or somewhere in a meeting and just talking about like the structure of your organization and working together to design it so that it functions for everybody, including the people who have no interest in a leadership role, but know that come into this group and here's a way that they can participate.
Yeah. And I think that's the new model. Like, that's the new thing we want to be working toward. And the old thing that we get caught up in is, oh, I have to make my mark. It has to be my vision. And I'm going to create this thing that I'm going to draw people to, that then they will support me.
Right.
And that's the old vision. That's the old way of doing it. And no wonder people get burned out.
Yeah. And then that thought, I feel like that makes me want to run away, like, even though I think it's hard sometimes to not be, bossy. Not that I've ever been accused of being bossy, but
it's a good thing. And don't ever let anyone tell you that that's a bad thing.
But it's not so much that it's a bad thing. It's just that I think when you have the mic, it's good to like pass it so that I don't want to be the center of every discussion and like in the Permaculture Salon, I don't want to be the one with the final say in whatever we're talking about. All I want to do is like create this situation where people can get together and talk about whatever. We do choose a topic every month. So this last one that we did on Wednesday was people care, which we started with like a little self-care thing and went all the way out to writing a memo to the mayor about creating an advisory council and, involving people from all community all over the city who are doing urban agriculture, who are doing permaculture, who are working just with people, with kids, just to come together and advise the mayor on changing the way we treat our land in Chicago and growing edible food for people to pick freely and learning along the way. So that was last month. But we've done soil, we've done water, we've done, next month we're going to do, I think, like plant allies and learn all about like dyeing plants and medicine plants and foraging. And I'm not sure yet. It's still information.
I hear my little one has popped. I'm sorry. Hold on one second.
That was awesome.
Yeah, here he comes. Emmy, I'm right here. He was napping.
That was awesome, Lori. That was
Thanks.
perfect.
Yeah.
Do you need to go get him, Milton?
He's coming this way. He's I hear the cry and the. I'll go get him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's going pretty well, Rhonda.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It's really interesting community of people that nobody from our class.
Yeah.
Sometimes, one or two, but hardly all people that I'd never met before. So I do want to figure out how to, get this 1,000 people
Here.
to come to things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's really interesting because we're doing the regional institute, or William and I are, and it's like we sent out a poll, right? You're a member, right? So we sent out a poll, and very few people respond, even though these are all people who have been dedicated to the and involved. It's just people's time.
I
it
think
just sucked away.
Like, how are people getting information? And there's 16 different ways to post information, and I mostly use Instagram, and maybe people are on it and maybe they aren't. I can't really worry about it too much, but when you're trying to reach 1,000 people with a poll, and I don't know, it's very hard to get people to their email, to certainly don't want to answer a phone call,
Oh yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No, I mean, my husband is in marketing. He does a lot of marketing work, and he does other stuff with his position. He's like, like the industry average for opening your email, and then look at your rate, and it's like 15% of people open an email, and of those 2% actually click on the links or something like that. It's like, oh my goodness, this is just so much.
Well, we're all in with email, with notifications about Facebook groups and, political action and donation requests. It's just so overwhelming. And I think people think, oh, I got to respond to this. And then, 16 other things happen and you forget about it.
Well, and, we were just talking, I think it was interesting. I was talking to my son today, and I said, oh, do you, we used to be involved in this social thing in the community. Do you miss not doing that? We haven't done that for a while. Do you want to go back? And he's like, I just don't feel like those people care about me as much as these, his homeschool cooperative, where he's with those people 2 days a week, and those, we're all connected to each other's birthdays and, all kinds of stuff. He's like, that's his community. That's his level of expectation around what interaction with a human being is, and I think that's why the in-person meetups, the salon, the potlucks and the book readings, and however it is that people can get engaged and start to build community and engage in creating that container really make a difference.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said for, as much as, it's exciting to think about 1,000 people. Think about how much 1,000 people could do if we got organized and did it. But starting small and slow is really the way to get that base built. And I would love to organize something big that get all of these people in the Permaculture Meetup group to be like, okay, there's one day, it's in October, we're going to do a thing, and it's, in a place. But I think that might involve a small group of people to organize it, not something that one person can be like, I'm hosting a permaculture fair. But, so.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's, a small team of 3 to 5 people who with, and then do a design on it, just like you would any other permaculture project. What's going on here? And
I love thinking about stuff like that. What I do with their time. It's and all of the ways that people can do stuff together.
Yeah.
You were saying before, that your permaculture experience is kind of a response to the 2016 elections.
Mhm.
And, I really was thinking, how much, all of that we have no control over. It's a show for us. It has nothing to do, and there's so much even in Chicago and world events and all these things that we just don't have any connection to, relationship with, other than we're hearing them over the news media. And I think that any opportunity where we can start to create relationship with each other, locally, and those face-to-face meetings is really, that's where it's at. When you can do something in your home, around your home, in your neighborhood, with the people that you live next door, that's really where it's at. And maybe across the city, but that's cool too. But you're just trying to keep things. It's that all these things make us want to look outward, right? Facebook and Instagram and all the news and everything that we've been fed for so long is really this outward looking stuff, and really I think we need to start at our front doorsteps and work from there, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and just starting with what is it that you can control, is what you're saying, right? Yeah. So worry about the things you have control over. Not that you don't worry about what you don't have control over, but what aspect of it do you actually have control over? Is it your shopping? Is it writing a letter to someone in a position of power to make a policy change? Is it those are the things you can do, right? Mm-hmm. But what happens with Brexit, I have no control over it.
No, but it's interesting. So, like Milton was saying, it's a show that I'm watching. I'm tuned in, but I'm not. We go through, I would say, almost like a monthly cycle where I feel very there's something I need to be working on politically today, mm-hmm. and then I go through phases where I'm I'm just gonna go, plant some more carrots. I can't think about the fact that I don't have the power to change what's happening. I do have the power to change what's happening right in front of me. Mm-hmm. So that's good, Well, the other thing about the face-to-face meetings is, unlike Facebook, you're getting into places with people that maybe don't have the same opinion about everything. Mm-hmm. And that can be difficult sometimes, but I think it gives people an opportunity to remember how manners work and how to be respectful to each other without
you okay?
I don't know, there's some hard lines in the sand now where people are kind of I can't, I'm not gonna tolerate racism, I'm not gonna tolerate sexism. Mm-hmm. But we can all still kind of try to work together and hopefully meet in the middle of issues. Mm-hmm. That we can find common ground on. It's a hard one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so much dividing people.
Okay.
And that emphasis on just where are the divisions and the labels instead of that common ground and
I need to wrap
letting go of some of that a little bit. Yeah, mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what? This is a great time to wrap things up. This is a nice little conversation. This is my son Emmett. Do you want to say hi to people? No, that's all right. But Rhonda and William Faith and I do the GLPDC thing, and we are so blessed to have Lori with us today. Thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and Lori's got the Chicago Meetup, right? So
yeah, I can't put it up there. I can't promise that I can go. I'm still, it's like a learning curve while I figure out the technology of the meetup too, because I think there's aspects of it that I just am kind of what? How's this work? I need a teenager to show me.
Time to get some help. Yeah.
I know. Some even the young people that I know through permaculture though are yeah, I don't know that.
I think there's some features there that,
I don't want any more. A new tall house.
Okay, a new tall house.
All right.
It's
Thanks,
the
guys.
tallest.
Bye.
All right, so just